For this assignment, I've chosen Margaret Atwood's night poem. I selected this poem because there's a very strong connection to nature, which is a common theme between Atwood and I. Throughout this piece, nature is depicted both beautifully and haunting, which is something I can relate to, for I immerse myself in nature daily. This is her work. There is nothing to be afraid of, it's only the wind changing to the east. It's only your father the thunder, your mother the rain. In this country of water, with its beige moon damp as mushrooms, its drowned stumps and long birds that swim where the moss grows on all sides of the trees. And your shadow, it's not your shadow, but your reflection. Your true parents disappear when the curtain covers your door. We are the others, the ones from under the lake who stand silently beside your bed, with our heads of darkness. We've come to cover you with red wool, with our tears and distant whispers. You rock in the rain's arms, the chilly arc of your sleep. While we wait, your night father and mother with our cold hands and dead flashlight. The wavering shadows thrown by one candle, in this echo you will hear 20 years later. This poem follows Atwood's own depiction of her abnormal childhood in Canada, and touches upon the feelings and thoughts she had during this time. Unlike other children, Atwood didn't attend school until the age of 11, for she spent half her time with her father, an entomologist in the northern Canadian wilderness. This exposed her to nature in its rawest form, as depicted beautifully in this piece. At the beginning of the night poem, Atwood personifies unfriendly elements of nature to make them seem welcoming, as seen when she states how there is nothing to be afraid of, for it is only your father the thunder and your mother the rain. However, this welcoming tone soon is replaced by a more sinister feel, as she describes how the individuals that raised her in the woods were the ones from under the lake who stand silently beside her bed, and how they have come to cover her with tears and distant whispers. Notice how the tears and distant whispers, which are referring to the rain and the wind and the trees, are depicted in a haunting, unfriendly tone, contradicting the welcoming tone used earlier. This tone shift is important, for it depicts the feeling she felt as a child when she was in the woods, surrounded by what she thought at the time were haunted figures in the darkness. Ultimately, at the end she states how those figures were only wavering shadows thrown by one candle, and how they were only a figment of her childhood imagination. This use of imagery and diction is key in the night poem, for they work together to paint a picture of the rugged wilderness in which a little girl's haunted thoughts run free. Canada is described as the land of drowned stumps, where mosses grow on all sides of the trees. This paints a picture for the reader depicting how everything, including the trees, are subject to nature and the elements, and how even the mightiest of them are reduced to stumps. This also touches upon how even nature is encased by nature, for the trees have moss on all sides of them. This exemplifies how immersed she was in nature, and how it controlled her every thought as a child when she was in this environment. Later in the poem, when the dark figures had come to cover you in red wool, imagery of parents tucking in a child is used, but is done so in a haunting and forlorn way. Near the end, the use of diction such as cold hands and dead flashlight depict the feeling of Atwood as a child in this environment, and how truly haunted she was. Ultimately, imagery and diction play an intricate role in conveying the theme of how nature ignited her imagination and successfully conveyed the changing tone throughout the piece. Atwood also touches on a search for identity in this piece, as she talks about how your shadow is not your shadow, but your reflection. By talking about how you don't have a shadow, but only a reflection, it is implied that this reflection is always changing, such as how ripples in water constantly alter one's reflection. This means that she's never really sure about her own identity as a child, but how nature filled that void. Ultimately, imagery, diction, tone, and the major themes of this piece are used successfully to recreate the haunting images in her childhood mind. This lends a key insight into what sparked one of the greatest female Canadian authors' literary career, and gives us a window to the emotions experienced during her childhood.